praxeology a Eurocubed action a Eurocubed, IIY cubed IIA Eurocubed talk. Speech a Eurocubed is the deductive study of human action based on the notion that humans engage in purposeful behavior, as opposed to reflexive behavior like sneezing and inanimate behavior. According to its theorists, with the action axiom as the starting point, it is possible to draw conclusions about human behavior that are both objective and universal. For example, the notion that humans engage in acts of choice implies that they have preferences, and this must be true for anyone who exhibits intentional behavior. The most common use of the term is in connection with the Austrian School of Economics, as established by economist Ludwig von Mises. Origin and etymology. Coinage of the word praxeology is often credited to Louis Bourdieu, the French author of A Classification of the Sciences, which he published in his The Copyright des Sciences, Plan de Science into Copyright Grail in 1882. On account of their dual natures of speciality and generality, these functions should be the subject of a separate science. Some of its parts have been studied for a long time, because this kind of research, in which man could be the main subject, has always presented the greatest interest. Physiology, hygiene, medicine, psychology, animal history, human history, political economy, morality, etc. represent fragments of a science that we would like to establish, but as fragments scattered and uncoordinated have remained until now only parts of particular sciences. They should be joined together and made whole in order to highlight the order of the whole and its unity. Now you have a science, so far unnamed, which we propose to call praxeology, or by referring to the influence of the environment, misology. However, the term was used at least once previously, as far back as 1608, by Clemens Timperler in his Philosophiae Practicae Systema Methodicum. In this work, Timperler, when examining ethics, goes on to say, the general ethics falls into two parts, 1, etology and 2, praxeology, that is, of virtue and of their action. This distinction between the moral actions of the virtues seems a novelty. But it's necessary, however, because the habit of virtue and the move to action do not coincide. It was later mentioned by Robert Flint in 1904. The popular definition of this word was first given by Alfred V. Espinasse, the French philosopher and sociologist and the forerunner of the modern Polish school of the science of efficient action. The Austro-American School of Economics was also based on a philosophical science of the same kind. Again in the different spelling, the word was used by the English psychologist Charles Arthur Mercier, and then proposed by Knight Dunlap to John B. Watson as a better name for his behaviorism. It was rejected by Watson, but was accepted by the Chinese physiologist of behavior, Xing-Yang Guo in 1935, and mentioned by William McDougall. Previously the word praxeology, with the meaning Espinasse gave to it, was used by Tadeusz Kotarbiewski and sometime later by several economists, such as the Ukrainian, Eugene Slutsky in his attempt to base economics on a theory of action, the Austrian Ludwig von Mises, the Russian Marxist, Nikolai Bukharin during the Second International Congress of History of Science and Technology in London, and the Pole, Oscar Lang in 1959, and later. The Italian philosopher, Carmelo Ottaviano, was using the Italianized version, Praxeologia, in his treatises starting from 1935, but in his own way, as a theory of politics. After the Second World War the use of the term praxeology spread widely. After the emigration of von Mises to America his pupil Murray Rothbard defended the praxeological approach. A revival of Espinasse's approach in France was revealed in the works of Pierre Massé Copyright, the eminent cybentician, Georges The Copyright Ogil Guilbord, the Belgian logician, Leo Apostel, the cybentician, Anatole Rappaport, Henry Pierron, psychologist and lexicographer, Frana Section Wapiru, economist, the social psychologist, Robert Davel, the well-known sociologist, Raymond Aron and the methodologists, Abraham Antoine Moles and Roland Cord. Under the influence of Tadeusz Kotarbiewski, praxeology flourished in Poland. A special center of praxeology was created under the organizational guidance of the Polish Academy of Sciences, with its own periodical, called at first Materiały Praxeologic, and then abbreviated to Praxeologia. It published hundreds of papers by different authors, and the materials for a special vocabulary edited by Professor Tadeusz Pszczolowski, the leading praxeologist of the younger generation. A sweeping survey of the praxeological approach is to be found in the paper by the French statistician, Michael Petruszewicz, apropos de la praxeology. Ludwig von Mises was influenced by several theories informing his work on praxeology, including Immanuel Kant's works, Max Weber's work on methodological individualism, and Karl Menger's development of the subjective theory of value. Austrian Economics relies heavily on praxeology in the development of its economic theories. Ludwig von Mises considered economics to be a sub-discipline of praxeology. Austrian school economists continue to use praxeology and deduction, rather than empirical studies, to determine economic principles. Advocates of praxeology also say that it provides insights for the field of ethics. Categories: the categories of praxeology, the general, formal theory of human action, as outlined by Murray Rothbard, are as follows: A. The theory of the isolated individual, B. The theory of voluntary interpersonal exchange, 1. Barter, 2. With medium of exchange, A. On the unhampered market, B. Effects of violent intervention with the market, C. Effects of violent abolition of the market, C. The theory of propositional exchange, or law and argumentation ethics, D. The theory of war or hostile action, E. The theory of games, F. Unknown. Criticisms: Thomas Mayer has argued that the Austrian economists' rejection of the scientific method, which employs positivism and empiricism in the development of theories, invalidates Austrian methodology. Austrians argue that logical positivism cannot predict or explain human action, and that empirical data itself is insufficient to describe economics, which in turn implies that empirical data cannot falsify economic theory, and that logical positivism is not the proper method of conducting economic science. Economist Mark Bloch has criticized over-reliance on methodological individualism, arguing it would rule out all macroeconomic propositions that cannot be reduced to microeconomic ones, and hence reject almost the whole of received macroeconomics. See also, behavioral economics, bounded rationality, cognitive science, methodological individualism, self-efficacy, semiotics, social actions, etymology. References. Further reading: Selgin, G.A. Praxeology and Understanding, an Analysis of the Controversy in Austrian Economics. The Review of Austrian Economics, 2, pages 19–58. Smith, George H. Praxeology. In Hamowy, Ronald. The Encyclopedia of Libertarianism. Thousand Oaks, California, Sage. Cato Institute, pages 387–8. ISBN 978-1-4129-6580-4. LCCN 2008089151. OCLC 750831024. Tadeusz Kotarbiewski, Praxeology, An Introduction to the Sciences of Efficient Action, Pergamon Press, 1965. Sophia, volumes 36–38, pages 126. External links: Preface to von Mises' book Epistemological Problems of Economics, The Ultimate Foundation of Economic Science by Ludwig von Mises, Praxeology, The Methodology of Austrian Economics by Murray Rothbard, Praxeology as the Method of the Social Sciences by Murray Rothbard, In Defense of Extreme A Priorism by Murray Rothbard, Economics and Praxeology by Ludwig von Mises, Time and Praxeology by Ludwig von Mises, Praxeology as Law and Economics by Joseph Angstrom Amar, Mises's Non-Trivial Insight by Robert P. Murphy, Psychology versus Praxeology by Robert P. Murphy, Praxeology, Economics and its Subsets defined by Nima Mahjur.